Why do you have to get married to somebody who has a certain degree? Why do you have to get married to somebody who is from a specific background? You don't. And we can't say that we are obligated to, because Allah Azza wa Jal has not told us that we are obligated to. There are certain restrictions, there are certain guidelines, there are limitations that are there for us for our benefit. But we cannot arbitrarily begin to decide that something based off of our relative understanding of morality and ethics is now somehow equated to what is halal and what's haram. And there are so many ways of doing it, and that permissibility for us is because we are so different from one another. And it is not just that we are different because we come from different ethnic backgrounds or our origins are different. Even within our households, we have to understand that between the generations, there exists an opportunity for different ways of pursuing it as well. So if my parents put me in a place where I was married in a certain manner, it doesn't mean that my child has to get married in the same way just because I went through it in that way. If I was allowed to be in a place where I made a determination as to who my spouse would be, this is something that the religion says I'm entitled to do. Just as much as it entitles me to be in a place where I can say, based off of my cultural norms, we will exercise an understanding that your marriage will be arranged, both are allowed. But because both are allowed, it doesn't mean that one is not. There are just different ways of doing it. And the one thing that we find explicitly in the hadith that is prohibited in this thing is the idea of a marriage that is forced. That in the Sunan of Abu Dawud rahimahullah, we find the hadith, we find the tradition that the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, he is given word of a young woman who is married against her will. And he speaks to this woman and he says that this marriage will be null and void if you don't want it to be taking place. Because you can't get them married without their consent. It is not allowed, it is not allowed. Forced marriage is something that is haram. When we try to understand this, we have to understand the deeper implications of it, because we are seeking to honor the objectives of a culture that should never supersede the objectives of our Sharia. We have to understand the broader reasons why we would be individuals who commit to another individual in this life to such a deep extent that we would say they are our husband or our wife. And when we force somebody to get into a relationship that doesn't make sense for them, we are just perpetuating cycles of misunderstanding in households that are not very healthy. We put our children into places where they're forced to succumb to circumstances that they should not be forced to succumb to. And because we don't have the connection to their subjective emotions and the pains that they experience beyond the time that we force them into those predicaments, we let it go as if we believe we have honored the rights and responsibilities that they have over us, when essentially we have not. Young women and young men on a daily basis find themselves in this situation where they are forced to acquiesce to a marriage contract that they do not want to be a part of, because they have a misconstrued understanding of what it means to be obedient to your parents. Islam does not say to you as a mother or a father that you are fully entitled to do what you will with your child's life. It is your child's life, not your own. And if you don't see the direct repercussions and ramifications of it, this is something that is problematic. A young woman came to me, a young woman comes to me pretty much every single week, every single day at times, with these kind of issues. Then my parents, they don't listen to me. My parents, they don't speak to me. They put me in a place where I went to a school, I went to a university, I came to them with an individual who would be good to me. They said, not only will you not be able to get married to this person, you have to get married to a person who is not only from our country, but from the specific village that is within our country. And if you don't do so, you are a bad person, you are dishonoring the rights that we have over you as parents, and you are doing something that surely you will cast sin upon yourself. And the child, wanting to not be someone who is disobedient to these parents, they find themselves in a place, I'm just going to do what I will. And they find themselves then in a place where they are not connected to the person who they are now sharing a bed with, who they will now be bringing children into the world with, who they look to as a means of support, a means who will be someone who will be there for them when no one else is there for them. They don't even know how to talk to one another. A young woman came to see me recently who was forced into a marriage by her parents, who had engaged in domestic abuse, emotional abuse, all kinds of abuse. This girl said that my parents, they sent me to a place that I did not want to be at. I did not want to be part of this contract. They said that you will be it because our honor is at stake. What we have in terms of what the people in our community will think of us, that is what is at stake. You will do it and you will enjoy doing it. And this young woman, she says that I was forced to be in this relationship for more than years, and every single night that my husband came and approached me in a physically intimate way, I felt as if this man was raping me because I had no desire to be with him. I did not want to be there sharing that bed with him, and I wished I had said no when I had the opportunity to say no, and I wish they had listened to me every single time I had said no and had not jumped when in my weakness I had said yes. Don't do that to your children. Don't set them up in that way. And if you are in a place where you are trying to understand your own marital pursuits, don't say yes to a marriage that you do not want to be a part of. You cannot sacrifice your happiness in that way. In the hadith, we have a woman by the name of Qayla bin Makhrama. This woman, she narrates hadith that we find in the book of Abu Dawood rahimahullah. And this woman, she has a story that is associated with her that when her husband passes away, she has several daughters who are not wed. And her husband's brother, he seeks to take seize of these young girls and get them married to people that he thinks they should get married to, not people that they want to marry on their own. And so this woman, Qayla, it is said that she takes her youngest daughter, she is able to grab her and run from the situation, and she goes and seeks out the Prophet ﷺ in Medina. And on her way to Medina, it is said that this man, her brother-in-law, begins to catch up to where she is. When she gets to the outskirts of the city, a struggle ensues, and he takes the child back with him so that he can do with her what he wants to do, get her married against her will. This woman, Qayla, it is said that she comes with a delegation into the city of Medina, and she goes into the masjid at the time of the Fajr prayer the next day. And as she sits, she is given the opportunity to speak to the Prophet ﷺ. And when the beloved of Allah ﷺ hears what has happened to her and what is happening to her daughters, he says that we should not oppress Qayla and her daughters and force them to get married against their will. Every faithful Muslim should help them in this cause. And a Muslim should do good deeds and not evil ones. What more do we want to hear? And what more do we want to understand? We cannot perpetuate these cycles that cast upon our community stereotypes and images that exist in very negative ways, because whether we are conscious of it or not, each and every one of us speaks for this religion of Islam. The manner in which we engage people, the precedent that we set for them, and aside from that, we have to think of the individuals whose lives we are setting up and playing with as if we don't really think that they have any worth, except that they are toys for us to do what we will with them. The Prophet ﷺ, his daughter Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, had a most unique relationship with him. Abiha, they called this woman Fatima Zahra, the mother of her father. They said that she mimicked him in all kinds of ways, that she embodied his characteristics. Most assuredly, they had a unique relationship, and they modeled for us the way a father should treat his offspring. Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, Aisha sees her when on one occasion, and the Prophet ﷺ is whispering into her ear. And she sees that Fatima cries, and she sees that Fatima laughs, and Aisha says to her that what was it that the beloved of Allah ﷺ was saying to you? And Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, she says that my father, he said to me that he would be leaving from this world soon. And this brought tears to my eyes. And then he said to me that I would be from amongst the first who would join him again, and this made me smile. And Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, it is said that when she knows she is leaving from this world, in some of our narrations, she takes her own bed into her courtyard and she looks into the heavens with a smile on her face because she will be reunited with her father once more. Would our daughters do that if they knew they would be with us again? Would our children find themselves in a similar situation based off of the way that we have treated them? If you are in a place where you find yourself in this predicament and you have the ability to say no, then say no. And if you are in a place where you have been forced into this situation and you are not able to remove yourself from it, when you have your own children, don't perpetuate the cycle. Don't let it continue on. Don't let it be something that keeps going. Forced marriages are not allowed in our religion. Both the husband, both the wife, both the groom and the bride, they have to be able to agree and consent to that contract. And if you do it against their will, you are doing something that most assuredly is impermissible in our tradition, in our religion, in our faith. And you are honoring the objectives of a culture that should not supersede the objectives of our Sharia, of our Islam, ever. Our lives were given to us. Even in pursuit of saying that we know what is best for somebody else, we can't justify it by saying that because we love you, we have the ability to do something that will hurt you. This is something that we have to let people decide for themselves. And if we don't do it, we are not honoring the rights that they have over us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and protect us. May He bless us with knowledge that benefits us. May He bless us with the tawfiq to understand and implement that knowledge into our daily lives. And may He guide and bless us all. Wallahu ta'ala alam wa billahi tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.